Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Bring It Back. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that were canceled and or short-lived that I would like to see get brought back in some shape or form. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Netflix series Altered Carbon. This is basically like a week ago at the time of me recording this news came out that obviously, sadly, Altered Carbon was canceled. If you're unaware what Altered Carbon is, really quickly, it's this interesting science fictional show where basically humanity's got to the point that there's this technology, there's these things called stacks. Basically, humanity's found like a science fictional way to basically prolong life. So basically, everything that you are, your memories, your personalities, everything that is you, essentially what is your soul, is in these little devices known as stacks. And basically, in this world, humans like bounce from bodies like it's nothing. It's like, oh, your body gets destroyed, why don't you buy a new body? And bodies in this world are called sleeves because they're treated kind of like, oh, like you can just slide in and slide out. They're treated almost like snake skin type of situation. And so basically, you follow like the main protagonist of the series, Takeshi Kovacs, who is basically kind of part of this group known as the Envoys. They were kind of treated like almost basically like terrorists / eco-terrorists, and basically he was on ice for like hundreds of years, and then he gets woken up by this dude, Bancroft, who basically wants Takeshi to solve his murder because he was murdered, but obviously it's like because of the whole stack thing, no one really dies, it's a whole thing. But basically he wants Takeshi to solve his murder, while at the same time like Takeshi's dealing with like obviously this new world because the people, the Envoys he was a part of, they fought against all of this. You kind of learn about that, like, you know, while in present day dealing with this murder mystery, there's also like this overarching plot of like, because obviously there's like a class system to this whole thing. There's the people at the top, the rich and powerful, called meths. They kind of are treated like God, so it's a whole angle of that too. It's a very real, to me it was a really interesting science fictional show, and obviously the show goes in kind of a bit of a different direction. It's not as much of a murder mystery in the second season, but regardless, I thought it was a really neat science fictional show. Sadly, like I said, the show was canceled after its second season. Like I said, this news dropped like basically a week ago at the time of recording this. But I was kind of bummed by that because I really was excited to see where they would have gone with season 3. It's a show where even with season 1, I'd heard mixed things about. Like I went into the show like before I even heard what anyone else had to think about it. I went to season 1 being like, holy shit, I really like this. But even from season 1, what I'd heard was like mixed things. Like either you hated this show or you loved it. Like from like just certain reactions made it seem like people are just, there was kind of no middle for a lot of people. Maybe that's, like I said, this is just a few opinions I've heard. This isn't to encapsulate it doesn't like mean that these few voices encapsulate how the entire internet felt. But from what I can tell, like not a lot of, for one, it seems like, you know, it seems like it's just that typical Netflix thing of like, we're canceling a show that's kind of expensive and also not enough people are watching. So I was kind of bummed by that, and just regardless of it all, like I said, I really like the show. I really like the concept of it all. Like I said, like to me, because I made a whole video talking about the concept of immortality in that series being so interesting to me, and how like it's a prime example of how immortality can corrupt you. So I think it's almost like there's like a, obviously like I said, there's a social like class angle to it, but there's also like a philosophical angle to it of like the price of living forever. You know, it's just a lot of interesting things packed together in a very like neat science fictional world. Especially because season 2 delved heavily into like the back lore of just everything, how stacks came to be, and stuff. Like obviously you got that in season 1, but you got even more of it in season 2, and obviously more of Takeshi's, you know, quest to find a certain someone. Obviously, if you've never seen the show, I won't spoil it, but and it's also interesting too because of the way the show is structured, because of the way stacks are done. Like even Takeshi, it's played by 2 different actors, because in the first season he's played by Joel Kinnaman, and in his second season he's played by Anthony Mackie. So it's just like an interesting thing. Like you can you almost kind of are able to do a Doctor Who thing where it's like, oh, at any point in time, if need be, you know, an actor doesn't want to do it anymore, you can always easily recast the role and stuff like that. Because what also really bums me about, you know, the show not getting a 3rd season is because the way season 2 ended off of like, oh, there would have been some really interesting places things would have taken us in the, you know, 3rd season, because the series is based off a trilogy of trilogy of novels known as like the Takeshi Kovacs novels, because I always forget the others. I know Altered Carbon is the name of the first novel, but each of the other novels has a different name, but it's all under the Takeshi Kovacs like kind of umbrella. And so as someone who's never read the books, because I've never really looked into like how the adaptation compares, like how much story was told. So I don't know whether like all of the first season was the first book and all of the second season was the second book. So at the very least, there was at least one more season potentially is all I would really want, because like where things were heading, I feel like it would have taken one more season. And that also depends on like, because especially if they were like, I'm always in a situation where like, tell a story as long as you want to tell it. Like if they wanted to go for 3 seasons, I would have supported. They want to go for 4 seasons. Because once again, like I said, this is an adaptation, so like I don't know how much of like the book is being adapted. So like I said, was it a 1-for-1 per season? I'm sure they changed a lot, but I'm curious, like storyline beat wise, was it 1-to-1? So would it have been a third and final season to kind of give you the whole complete story, or would they have done it over multiple? Like would it have been a 3 and 4? Like I said, it all depends on like how everything got adapted and divided up, you know, depending on how quickly or how slowly they went through certain story beats, I'm sure. But at the very least, I would have wanted one more season. Kind of feel like I said, it's been a little while, but the way season 2 ended, like I feel like there was a lot of room where you can be like, all right, this seems like this could be like the end all be all type of situation of Takeshi's story. So I think that would have been, you know, pretty neat, especially because Takeshi ended up in a very interesting spot again, because he kind of ends up in this spot in season 1, like the whole, I would say things double up is all I'll say. Like things kind of doubled up in season 1 and they kind of double up in season 2 to a certain extent. So I would have loved to see where that story would have taken us going forward in the season 3, just in the story in general. But yeah, like the news bums me out. So I don't see Netflix ever reversing any of their cancellations. I don't think. Like, I mean, it's at the point because like a lot of people kind of chalk it up. Netflix is going to let things run maybe 2-3 seasons at most. Obviously, there have been exceptions in the past, but it's just a thing of like, what's the point of dumping a whole bunch of money into a very expensive show if no one's going to really watch? Obviously, it just comes down to viewership and stuff like that. I'm sure reception plays a big role in it too. Like I said, I don't know in general how most people felt. I heard some opinions here and there, but obviously that isn't, you know, that doesn't represent everyone's opinion about it. But like I said, I'm really bummed because I really like the show and I was really hoping for a 3rd season. So I don't see, like I said, I don't see Netflix changing their mind. I mean, there is always a possibility because there have been things that have been on Netflix that have gotten picked up elsewhere. I don't know what, I mean, it'd be kind of cool if like an HBO or like, I mean, because, well, HBO has HBO Max now. So like just either HBO or HBO Max were to pick this up. Like I could easily see this being on like an HBO show. I don't know, you know, I mean, whether they really go after the property or not, I don't know. But I would like this show to get revived, you know, at the bare minimum, 1 more season. You want to go 2 more? Hell yeah. But I definitely, at the very least, would want a 3rd and final season. But that's just me. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, love life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good